to WGT. Today we're going to do something a bit different. I recently posted a poll on Instagram and asked whether people were after a song tutorial or my rig rundown, and surprisingly they came pretty close. In the end, the rig rundown won. So here we are today. Just want to talk through everything in my signal chain from the start to the end, and talk about the effects that I'm using and how I use them and what sort of songs I would use them for. Let's have a look at my pedal board. So you can see from the picture over here, got a Ernie Ball volume pedal junior, and that's got a tuner out, so that goes to my Korg DT10 tuner. And then from the volume pedal we go into a Crybaby wah, and from the Crybaby wah we go to a Voodoo Lab Sparkle Drive, which is a light overdrive based on the Tube Screamer 808, and then straight into a Tube Screamer TS9, the classic Tube Screamer, and that goes off into my amp here, into the front of my amp. And there's a Boogie Express 525 into a 1x12 Mesa Boogie cab as well, Express cab. It's got a C90 Black Shadow speaker in there, so plenty of headroom. I like to have clean headroom. Some people like dirty sounds straight from their speaker. I like a bit of clean room to work with. And then from the amp, I go from the effects loop, send out to my Jim Dunlop Univibe, which is like a chorus rotary effect, then into a Voodoo Lab tremolo pedal, and then that goes into my Boss DD7 digital delay with a FS5U tap foot switch. So why are those running through the effects loop? Well, it's because I use the reverb and the overdrive on my amp. So the way we lay out the order of our effects is a bit like like baking or cooking. You know, you don't marinate the steak after we've cooked the steak. We've got to do it in the right order. So it's the same thing with our effects. We need to actually put them in the right order so that they're going to sound the best on the other side. All right. So because generally speaking, we want overdrives, EQs, volume, boosts, all that stuff before the front of the amp. That will go into the amp, and then we're going to get send the effects loop out, and then you go into all your ambient modulation effects first, like choruses, pitch shifters, and then octavers, all those sort of things, and then we can go into our ambient effects, which is delays, and then reverb. So I use the reverb on my amp quite a bit because it's got a beautiful reverb, tube reverb as well on there, and obviously because we're using the overdrives on the amp, I'm using the overdrives on the amp. I don't want to put any ambient effects in front of it, otherwise it's going to sound quite messy. So that's the reason why I do it in that particular order and use the effects loop. Right. Now, before we get stuck into each pedal, I know that my board hasn't changed in a long time, and the main reason for that is I don't feel like it needs to change. Like I understand that people's boards are always changing and evolving and getting the latest, greatest pedals out there. Personally, I would love to have a Helix LT. So if you want to send one this way, please send it over to me and bless me. I'll take it. But this works for me. And funnily enough, one of my team members, one of the other guitarists on our team at church, the other day thought I was using a Kemper, and I always get good feedback on my tone. So I think it's more about how we use what we got rather than just trying to chase the latest pedals that everyone's using to get that tone. I think if you know how to dial in the right EQs and the right settings and invest a lot of time working into your gear, then you'll get a great tone, great sound of it, and you probably will get what you're looking for to replicate a particular tone or sound that's used in a song, part or line. All right, well, let's get stuck into it straight away. So obviously I've got my guitar at the front. This is a beautiful guitar. It's a Fender Telecaster Thin Line, crafted in Japan, 2007 model. It was given to me by a friend last year. Yes, it was given to me. Such a God thing. He really felt God to say to give it to me, and he didn't know that I actually wanted one of these things as well. So that's a huge testimony in itself. Real blessing. I do have a couple of other electric guitars you would have seen. Some of you would have seen. I've got a USA Fender Strat. It's 1995, pretty old model that one, but it's beautiful. Great workhorse. And I've got a Paul Reed Smith PRS Custom 22 20th anniversary. Got that back in 2006. That's a beautiful guitar. I mean, they're a bit old school these days. Not too many people are using PRSs anymore. But yeah, so that is my other electric, and I've got a couple of acoustic guitars as well. But I mainly play electric at church, so that's what we're talking about today. Okay, so volume pedal, that's no mystery to anybody. We know what that does. Generally, I'll use it if I'm not playing at all, just to eliminate any possible noise or buzz coming out of the guitar. But otherwise, it comes in really handy for swells. So if I just play the volume pedal on its own, play chord, we all know how it works. It's just like the volume on your guitar. But generally speaking, I'll use that with some reverb on the amp, use some, which I use a foot switch to control that, and then some delay, just to sort of give me a bit more ambience. Alright, so that's kind of what we were using for mainly, swells there, and then we go into tuner. That's no mystery as well. It's a chromatic tuner. It just works. Well, that's why I haven't changed it in forever. It's the first pedal tuner I ever got, and I still have it. Maybe 20 years ago. I don't know. More than that, actually. And then we got the wah pedal next. Now, don't laugh, because yeah, who uses wah pedals anymore these days? If I turn my reverb off here, it's a bit of a joke that you use wah pedal in church, but sometimes it works out well. I think you can use it, number one, as a phase effect, or just to accent certain notes, or to get a particular tone you want when you're playing a line. For example, Awesome in This Place by Elevation Worship. So there's a line that goes, so if you're playing in let's say we're in key of D, it'd be, and then at the end of that it'll be. So I'll just sort of play that sort of thing just to give it a bit more of an accent in there. Or we can use it as a phasing effect. So we know old school days, if I'm using something like, if you're playing Mighty to Save, and I'm sure some churches out there are still playing Mighty to Save, we know that, we're still got to turn the wah on. So you can still use it as a phasing effect there. So that comes in handy. You can control that quite well. So that's what I use my wah for. All right, overdrives are no mystery at all. So Voodoo Lab Sparkle Drive it's like an always on kind of overdrive. I don't normally turn that off. If I have it clean, if I turn my wah off, have it clean, and turn the reverb down. Sound like this. Drive, just a bit of hair in it. So when you really dig into the strings, you'll hear a bit more bite into it. And then next overdrive will be, I stack my overdrive, so I don't sort of turning one off and then turning another one on. I'll just increase them in gain stages. So I'll go up to the Ibanez Tube Screamer, which is a bit of a higher drive. So things, if I'm playing a line like in Waymaker, so I wouldn't use that too much for rhythm, but even though sometimes I would drive some big power chords. Sounds great. I don't know why I needed to change them. I think they sound fantastic, especially on this guitar. Alright, so, and then goes into the effects loop. Before we go to the effects loop, I do have two channels on my amp. I know a lot of people are using single channel amps these days, hand-to-hand, point-to-point wiring. This amp's beautiful. It just works. The Rick Pino guitarist back in the day, when he used this amp when he came to Perth, he loved it. He said it was the best amp he'd ever played through, and for a good reason as well. I loved it. Every time I use it in the studio, I get great feedback from the people there as well. So I'll switch to, if I want more lead sounds, sounds a bit buzzier there, but it's not too much with the amount of gain on there. So I'll stack the two overdrives and the second channel on my amp to get even more lead sound, right? If we're playing New Wine in the key of D, what would that be? So key of D. plenty of sustain, plenty of gain. I don't. I also foot switch that. I don't normally go to my amp and touch things. Obviously, that wouldn't work. Right. So yeah, that will be the gains that I use. 3 levels of gain. So very rarely do I ever go to the second channel on there, because church music these days we tend to sort of just hang around with the lower gain territory. Not too much like 15, 20 years ago when people used to play metal in church. I think they still do, some churches. Anyway, yeah, cool. So straight over to the ambient, modulation effects. So Jim Dunlop Univibe. This is a tank of a pedal. It weighs like a ton, and it was very expensive when I got it as well. I think it cost me like maybe almost $400 at the time, which was pricey for a pedal 10 years ago. Maybe 10, 15, 12 years, I don't know. I'm old. Anyway, so this pedal, I kind of use it for songs that have a bit of that chorusy sort of swells. A lot of the Bethel stuff, and I'm just picking notes and a chord. It just provides that sort of extra body and warmth and a bit of effect in there. So you can hear that without it. Turn the delay off. Right, so. So just subtle, but it sort of really adds to that sort of effect that you're after to create a bit more ambience. Tremolo, once again, don't use this too often. This is just sort of phasing the volume in and out at certain intervals, depending on the timing you set for it. So I don't know. Current example, maybe Sea of Victory, verse 2. They have that particular line, the whole. Right, so that's an example of when I'll use that, not too often. And of course, last but not least, we have a delay in there, and worship music and delay are kind of like U2 and The Edge and delay. You can't really separate them these days. It's almost always on, except for probably some praise songs. But even then, maybe probably at least the reverb is on as well. So you either have delay, reverb, or both of them on at any one time. So DD7 is great. I'll use a mixture of the quarter notes, dotted eighth, and sometimes I'll use the eighth note delay if I'm playing a 6/8 song. So yeah, that's generally how it works. I think faster praise songs, you'll go with the quarter note delay. It's like, go down. If I use Awesome in this place again as an example, 2, 3, 4. Chorus. Right. We all know how the dotted eighth note works. That's probably used in most of the worship songs. Even obviously the faster praise songs will have that sort of percussive vibe too. It's got a great setting as well. It's got a modulate setting, which I use sometimes. That sort of gives you also a very Bethelish sort of effect. So it's playing a chorus sound that sort of, getting used to my face, that sort of echoes out more and more out of tune as it repeats, which is why you wouldn't probably have it on for too many repeats. But you hear it now, right? So. Beautiful tone. I love it. People give me great reports whenever they hear that. Throw some reverb into there, makes it even sweeter. Right, and obviously the amp reverb, you can hear that there. I think you'd use it in the song, like for example, I've got a mental blank. United song. That with the Univibe actually works really well. So, example of just using reverb only over there. So yeah, that's basically my rig. So that's what I use. I think it covers most things. Probably lacking some super strong ambience, I guess, in some departments if I'm really looking for very thick swells, or if I'm looking for octave lines. So probably like missing probably a POG. I guess that'll be nice to have a POG octave. But yeah, if I turn on quite a few of my ambient effects, I can still get a decent sort of swell coming through. Yeah, it works. Cool. The other good thing about the DD7 as well is that you've got a looper on it, so you can actually record yourself playing on it as up to 40 seconds, multiple times. You can layer a track over it, so it's great for practicing, great for just backing yourself when you're practicing. So I'll give you a little demo of that right now.